justice, health, and long life to the Right Honorable Lloyd George. It is, as your chairman has reminded you, it is nearly 16 years since he recruited me to the Zionist movement.
The United States was proud to be the first nation to recognize Israel's independence. And on this landmark anniversary, America is proud to be Israel's closest ally and best friend in the world. The alliance between our governments is unbreakable, yet the source of our friendship runs deeper than any treaty. It is grounded in the shared spirit of our people, the bonds of the book, the ties of the soul.
Welcome back. We've heard from Lloyd George onwards about how the Brits were basically groomed in the Zionist movement. And we heard President Bush speaking in the Israeli Knesset, sounding no less than the ideal Christian Zionist. How do we explain this Western support to Israel?
I think part of it can be explained with the unfinished business that some people have with the Holocaust, and they look at Israel, the Israelis, still as the victims.
But Akiva, just if you allow me, the Brits did all their promises and all of their talk about Zionism before the Holocaust started.
Even before the Holocaust, the Jewish people were perceived as the underdogs, people without land who deserved to have land. But I think that the answer is more political. The Israelis and the Jewish community has been able to mobilize their influence. It's money. And you know, in the United States, if you want to understand American politics, follow the money.
Do you agree, Rami, that it's a question of support within those Western capitals, and it's a question of solidarity with the Jewish people?
You know, it's all of these things together. There's also the biblical associations. There's the sense of compensating for the Holocaust. There's a tradition in modern times of the Israelis linking themselves to the democratic free West, while the Arabs were either communists or now they're terrorists or they're oil blackmailers. We tend to find ourselves on different sides, Israel with the West, we against the West. Now the tradition in Washington and Tel Aviv and Europe partly is to link the Palestinians and Hamas and Hezbollah with bin Laden and the Islamic radicals. So there's a whole bunch of different reasons, as well as intense lobbying, successful lobbying by the pro-Israeli groups who are not all Jewish.
Rami said something which is quite important. We have now the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is a global conflict.
Yes.
And you have everything within. Islam and the West, democracy versus anything which is coming from the Arabs, which is no democracy. All this is there, and we have this. At the same time, what is happening in the West, and it's crucial to understand this, because it's crucial for the future also of the Western countries and the European countries, is that 20 years ago, the support towards Israel was more than 70% coming from the people in Europe. Now we have 67% of the European population much more supportive of the Palestinians. So something is changing within the countries, and this is also something that we have to say. The Muslim presence, the Arab presence, us being citizens in Europe, being informed and not stopping talking about it, not saying that it's not acceptable. I think that this also has to do with what we hear now about, you know, this Arabs and Muslims being a threat from within the European countries.
I think one of the most important things to understand, not only about the Nakba, is that it was a colonial project, and that the Zionist movement was a part of the colonial movement. So we're dealing with a Western project in its essence. So there's no comparison in a sense between two sides that are fighting each other equally.
I would like to take this to Akiva. Akiva, it sounds to me that appeasing few thousands of settlers is not only enraging Muslims and Arabs, and hundreds of millions of them, but it's also enraging Western public opinion. That very explanation you just gave me about solidarity with the Holocaust survivors being confused with indifference to Palestinian suffering is backfiring today, Akiva, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know, I would even aim a little bit higher than you.
Please, you know, be my guest.
Barak said to Yeah, you know, Ehud Barak said a few years ago to my colleague Gideon Levy that if he was a Palestinian, he would join one of the terrorist organizations. I would say if I was Palestinian, I would do the opposite. I would stop all kind of violence. I would even do everything to stop corruption. I would behave perfectly and just sit and wait. And this is the question.
But haven't they done that, Akiva?
I'm afraid
I think they've done that just the last several months. Didn't they call for a whole unilateral ceasefire? And nothing seemed to help.
Yeah, but you know, once in a while someone is launching a Qassam rocket and breaks it. I would just give the Israelis back all the weapons and just wait until we will become the majority, the Palestinians. And then, instead of asking for independence, I will struggle for equal rights. And this is something that I don't think that the Israeli democracy will be one-state solution, and we are heading towards this.
I must quiz the Palestinian guests here on this. Karma, what do you think about the one-state solution?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the fragmentation that has happened to the Palestinians since before the 60 years of the Nakba and the continuation of it, you have the Palestinians from 48, from Israel, from the West Bank. The majority are in exile and refugees outside. Increasing fragmentation and separation and lack of representation. I think what you see as well is a reorganization of the Palestinians uniting under the issue of the Nakba and also about the one state. It means that it's something that we all share.
What do you think about that, Professor?
No, completely. The two-state solution is over. It's not going to happen. And the only way forward is one-state solution, equal citizenship, people living together. But for this, you know, I may agree with, you know, wait and see. But it's not enough. We need to have something which isn't, yes, action, international support, non-violent international support. This is something. And people like you from within, in Israel, but outside, being able also to be very vocal. And when we are speaking about the Nakba, they are saying, if you speak about it, you deny the very existence of Israel. It means that if you speak about this, there is no way.
If I could just add one last thing which you raised, which Akiva mentioned, which is this policy of waiting and that right and that time and that demographics is on our side. The problem is the Zionist project as a colonial project which continues today is extremely violent. And no matter what, whether Palestinians are nonviolent, and we've seen that in all kinds of negotiations, the Arab states as well, that the project continues of dispossession, and it's that needs to be seized by action and by collective action.
To add even to what Karma said, it's not just that the Israelis and the Zionist project, which is supported widely by the West in many cases, is violent, it also delegitimizes, even when you had Hamas. They had a truce for over a year. They won a democratic election. They did two of the most profound things that the world has demanded of the Palestinians, to be peaceful, to be democratic, and to live side by side with Israel tacitly. And what did they get? They got complete denial, subjugation, sanctioning, and delegitimization. So there's a sense among Palestinians, I think all over the region, that this is a hopeless diplomatic process. We have to basically hold our ground, work on our own communities, send our kids to school, and over time we will have better leaders, we will have more solidarity in the region, more coherence in the Arab world.
Well, it seems to me, Akiva, that you're the one who launched this one-state, two-state thing. So I'm going to give you the last word on it. Do you think this is going to happen by design or by default?
Israel has got what it's got in the basement, or the conventional weapons, that Israel is superior to the Arabs militarily. But vis-a-vis the Palestinians, this doesn't help. You know, the atomic bomb will not help. As a Zionist, I believe that this is going to be a catastrophe. I think that right now what we need is a good divorce lawyer. We don't need a rabbi or a sheikh.
For the time being, I would like to thank you in Tel Aviv, Akiva Eldar, and Rami Khouri in Beirut. Despite what we all think the world knows about Palestine, when the question was posed to random people around the world, there were some surprising answers.
I know so little, and it's to my utter shame. I just think I wish I knew what was going on there a lot more.
Sadness, oppression, dispossession, and what a waste.
What should happen is that the Israelis have to acknowledge that they have done something very wrong to the Palestinian people, and on that basis they should move forward.
Palestine, that was the old name for what is today Israel.
I think the Palestinian people are people that are deprived of their rights, and they are oppressed.
Oil companies, pretty much.
Good for the Jewish people. Obviously hasn't been so good for the Palestinian people.
You see it on the news all the time, like lots of war and stuff, like lots of fighting. That's all I know really about it.
I think both sides have valid issues and claims, and probably won't be solved for any time in our lifetime.
Palestine, what do you mean by Palestine? You're talking the Arabs, you're talking Israel, you're talking Jordan also. Everyone has a different opinion when you say Palestine, what it is. It's a conglomerate of it all.